Hey there, this is Hunter McDermott with AnyoneCanPlayGuitar.org, and this is lesson 4 of basic 12-bar blues for the guitar. Um, so in the first lesson we were talking about the 12-bar blues form, then we made it a little bit more interesting with the shuffle, then in the last lesson we introduced the idea of applying the pentatonic scale, this specific one here starting at the 5th fret of the 6th string, and how perfectly that sounds over top of a shuffle or a 12-bar blues in the key of A. So all this stuff is just staying in the key of A. Okay, but as I did at the end of last lesson, I was just playing along with this play-along track and just sort of hitting random notes. They're random order, but they're only notes from the scale. I didn't hit any notes out of that scale. So, and that's great. You can go far by just doing that. And your instincts will probably take over at some point, and you'll learn different patterns, different licks, and things that you like to return to. But today we're going to look at how you can start thinking a little bit more deeply about the chords that you're playing over, so that you can play to those chords. I always think that a solo that informs the chords a little bit is a lot more impressive and interesting for me personally to listen to than somebody who just rips fast scales. That's cool and that has its place, but I just like it when it's a little bit more thought out, and you can hear how those notes resolve and hit different chord tones and things like that. Basically, it sounds like it fits a little bit better than if you just randomly hit stuff. So I believe the way to do that is to play around with improvising for a little bit, just hitting random notes, and see if you stumble upon a lick that you like. So let's see, I'm going to just sort of, let's see, that might be a little too many notes. Let's see, how about that? We'll do that. Alright, so that's going to be my lick. Not all that exciting, but as an example, that'll work. Alright, so let me teach you my lick. It is the the 7th fret of the 4th string, and then it's going to walk up the pentatonic scale, that same pattern there. It's going to go up to the 5th fret of the 3rd string, then the 7th fret of the 3rd string, then back to the 5th fret of the 3rd string, and then it resolves back where it started. So, now, not all that exciting by itself, but we'll see how it works once we play along with the track. Alright, so I started right here on the 7th fret of the 4th string. Now, that's this note, this part of the scale here, and I'm just walking dun, 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 back up the scale and then back down the scale. Now, I chose that note for a reason because if you go back to lesson 1 of our music theory basics class, you'll learn that the 4th string is tuned to D, and if we walk our way all the way up to the 7th fret, what note we get is an A. So that's just like that low A that the scale begins on. It's just a higher pitched A. We also have an A up here. So I started on A, and the idea is that I want to, anytime an A chord is happening in the music, I want to play a lick that starts on A. So anytime I hear A, right at the very beginning, I'll be doing this. Something like that. Alright, but what's cool about this is that we can find those other root notes in our 12-bar blues. So we had A chords, we had D chords, we had E chords. So we can find a D note and play this same lick starting on the D. And then we can play the same lick starting on an E. Alright, so within this pattern, I have an A here. Now, I have a D right here. Or I'm sorry, I'll go up to here. So I have a D right here. That's the 3rd string, 7th fret. So that's right next door to where I just was. So I played my A lick. Now I'm going to play the D lick the same way. Now I'm going to walk up, da, 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 walk up 2 notes, and then walk back those 2 notes to where I started. But I'm going to make sure that I adhere to what notes are available to me in the scale. So in this case, I wouldn't go like this. Because this note here, the 7th fret of the 2nd string, would be right here, and that note is not there. Instead, it's played on the 8th fret. So I'll replace that note with the 8th fret. So I'll go like this. So I have D, and then I go back to the D there. Again, not especially bluesy sounding right now, but we'll see how it works. All right, so I have my A lick, then I have my D lick. All right, now I can also play that lick starting on an E, and E is conveniently the 7th fret of the A string, so that's one below where we started on that A there. So 5th fret, 5th string, 7th fret. Now this one works perfectly. I can play this up and down the scale just like I did on the A. Alright, so say, hypothetically, I have a 12-bar blues in A, and I'm just going to play my lick over whatever chord would be there. So anytime there's a 1 chord or an A, I'll be playing my A lick. Over D will be D, and over E will be E. So it might sound like this. This is without the backing track. Let's see what it sounds like. Oops, I messed up. Then it would switch to D. There we go. And back to the A. Then here's E. Then D. And then A. And then it'll end with E again. Something like that. Alright, let's try that over the play-along track and see if having that simple lick play over each chord over top of that play-along track kind of bolsters it, makes it sound a little bit more full and bluesy and interesting like we're trying to get. So here we go. Something like that. Alright, again, not probably the most impressive solo you've ever heard, because it's the same thing over and over again, but what I want you to hear, what I want you to take from this, is the idea of resolving the lick on the note that is the root of the chord that you're playing. So, if I'm playing an A chord, or the rhythm guitar is playing this A chord shuffle thing, then the overall note that we're getting from that is A. That's the root of that chord. Like we learned in the theory, that's the 1 of that chord. So anything that we play, anytime we play that 1, that A note over an A chord, it's going to sound pretty sweet. And it's going to sound a little bit like it matches better than just hitting any other random note. There's a lot more to this, playing specifically to different chords and everything, but in its very basic form, I think this is what you want to shoot for, is just hit the roots over whatever chord you're playing. Alright, so let me try that one more time, and this time I'm going to embellish it a little bit. So I'm going to play those licks whenever I can't think of anything else. So I'll try to return to those licks here and there, and we'll see how you can use those lick ideas that you come up with mixed with a little bit of improvisation, and then of course other licks that you come up with. And that's where soloing comes from, I think. So if you see some guy get up there and play a complicated guitar solo, and especially in blues or jazz where it really is improvisatory, instead of rock solo where it's probably been written down, or at least it's played the same way more often than not. What you're hearing is mostly predetermined licks and ideas that guitar player had already in store. What makes it fun is in what order you piece these different licks together, and then of course if you have a lick here and a lick here, how do you string them together using other notes from the scale, things that you can't quite 100% anticipate. Very, very high level players certainly know exactly what they're playing as they're playing it, even if they're making it up, because they've got that ability. They've trained themselves over time. But a lot of players will just play some licks that they know, and they'll mix it in with some random notes from the scale, and that's where you get solos from. So that's what I'm going to attempt now. I'm going to play the licks and mix it with some random notes from that scale over the A 12-bar blues shuffle. So here we go. Something like that. So hopefully you can compare that, what I just did, to what I was doing at the tail end of last lesson, and maybe you like one, maybe you like the other. But I think a good place to start with soloing, or a second step, so the first step of soloing is learn the scale and just play it randomly. Hit notes in whatever order and whatever amounts you want, and experiment, have fun experimenting and kind of discovering this new type of playing. And then the second step, once you get bored with that maybe, or want to just get a little bit better, push forward, is to start thinking about playing specifically over different types of different chords. So you're targeting these different root notes within your scale. So that's, it's just a slightly higher level of thinking where you're starting to consider, all right, what notes am I actually hitting, and how can I hit them in a more organized and pleasing way. So there you go. That's sort of like a very basic intro into creation of licks as well. If you hear something that you think is cool, you do. Learn that in as many different places as you can, and turn that into your lick, your signature thing. You hear that from different guitarists all the time. You're like, oh yeah, I know it's that guy because he always does that same thing, or he has this certain style to it, and that comes from the type of licks and scales that they choose. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, leave them for me. And if you would, please subscribe to these videos if you're liking them, and check out my other videos. And stay tuned for the final basic blues lesson. We'll be looking at the actual blues scale. So there you go. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot for watching.